Her friends couldn't believe what she said about her new retiree BF. She left her ex, then bragged about the late night actions. She told her friends, "This foreigner is different during intimacy. My new boyfriend thrills all night." Hi all, nailed Solomam. My goodness everybody. Today's topic is going to make some people very uncomfortable because this is one of those stories that people whisper about privately but almost nobody wants to admit publicly. And let me tell you something. Sometimes after breakup, some people do not simply move on quietly. No, sometimes they celebrate the replacement. Sometimes they brag. Sometimes they compare. And sometimes they humiliate the ex in front of other people just to prove to themselves that they upgraded. And that is exactly what today's story is about. Because one Filipino woman shocked even her own friends after gleefully talking about her new retired foreign boyfriend and comparing him non-stop to her ex. And the way she did it, oh my goodness, even some of her own amigas became uncomfortable because what starts as excitement can slowly become disrespect. And when people begin turning private relationships into entertainment for friends, live streams, gossip circles, and validation, that relationship may already be headed toward dangerous territory. You know, everybody, there is something very powerful that happens at the beginning of a new relationship, especially when the new person makes somebody feel desired, exciting, younger, validated, emotionally alive again. That honeymoon stage can make people act completely differently. Suddenly, they smile more, dress differently, post more photos, answer messages faster, stay online late at night, brag to friends constantly. And some people become addicted to that attention. Not love, attention, validation, excitement. And according to this story, that is exactly what began happening. This woman reportedly started telling her circle of friends that her new retired foreign boyfriend was more exciting, more adventurous, more experienced, more affectionate, more romantic than her ex ever was. Now listen carefully. There is nothing wrong with being happier in a new relationship. That happens, but the problem begins when somebody cannot feel happy unless they are also humiliating somebody else. One of the worst things people can do after a breakup is turn the former partner into a joke. And sadly, this happens constantly now on social media. People no longer break up privately. Now everything becomes content, gossip, live stream material, Facebook status drama, secret shade posting, indirect insults, passive aggressive comments, and friends often encourage it. Why? Because gossip is entertainment. And according to the story, this woman began telling her friends details that should have stayed private, very private. And the more attention she got from her girlfriends, the more she continued. Because people sometimes confuse attention with approval. But just because friends are laughing does not mean they respect you. Now let us go deeper psychologically, everybody. Why do some people constantly compare the new partner to the old one? Usually because they are trying to convince themselves they made the correct choice. Truly happy people usually do not need an audience. Think about that carefully. When somebody is deeply secure, they move quietly. But when somebody constantly announces, "My new man is better, my new woman is hotter, my ex could never," this relationship is different. Sometimes that person is actually seeking reassurance. And social media makes this behavior even worse. Because now, relationships are becoming performance art. People are no longer asking, "Am I happy?" They are asking, Do other people think I upgraded? Now let us discuss something many people notice in age gap relationships involving retirees. Some retirees arrive in the Philippines emotionally exhausted from divorce, loneliness, retirement depression, isolation, financial stress, feeling invisible back home. Then suddenly, they meet somebody younger who gives them admiration, excitement, attention, flirtation, affection, companionship, and that can feel intoxicating. For some retirees, it feels like youth returned, like life restarted, like somebody finally sees them again. And for some women, an older foreign retiree presents security, stability, travel, attention, emotional support, lifestyle upgrades. So both sides can become emotionally addicted very fast. Here is where things become dangerous, everybody. Friends, because sometimes the relationship is not only between two people anymore. Now the girlfriends become involved. The barkada becomes involved. The live stream audience becomes involved. The subscribers become involved, and suddenly, private intimacy becomes public entertainment. Now friends are asking, how is he? Is he better? Does he spend more? Does he travel more? Is he romantic? What does he do differently? And immature people love that attention, especially if they are still emotionally angry at the ex. Now imagine being the ex. Imagine hearing through mutual friends, or social media, or gossip circles, that your former partner is publicly comparing you. That hurts, especially for men, because many men may appear emotionally calm outside, but inside, they replay everything repeatedly, and some men become deeply depressed after humiliation, especially older men already struggling with aging, loneliness, insecurity, declining confidence, retirement identity loss. People laugh about this sometimes, but emotional humiliation can destroy somebody psychologically. Some relationships are built on peace, others are built on ego. An ego relationship sounds like this: look what I got. Look who chose me. Look how jealous my ex is. Look how upgraded my life became. That is not emotional maturity. That is emotional competition. And relationships based mainly on validation usually become unstable later. Why? Because validation addiction never ends. The person constantly needs more attention, more excitement, more compliments, more bragging rights, more proof. And eventually the relationship itself becomes exhausted. You know, everybody, I always say this carefully. There is nothing wrong with finding happiness again after heartbreak. Nothing wrong with starting over. Nothing wrong with loving somebody new. But dignity matters. Respect matters. Class matters. And how you speak about people after relationships end says a lot about your character. Because one day, the person you are bragging about and banging you today could become the next ex tomorrow. Life changes very quickly, especially relationships built too heavily on sex and excitement instead of emotional depth. And here is another truth many people avoid discussing. Sometimes the new retired boyfriend does not realize he is being used as a comparison trophy. He simply thinks, she loves me. But sometimes, part of the attraction is the emotional revenge against the ex. And that is dangerous, because if somebody constantly needs an enemy, or comparison, or audience, peace rarely lasts long. So everybody, today's story is not really about intimacy. It is about validation, attention, ego, comparison, and emotional maturity. Because real happiness usually becomes quieter with age, not louder. And the older we get, the more we should value peace, loyalty, emotional safety, respect, privacy, kindness, instead of turning relationships into gossip material for applause. But what do you think, everybody? Was she simply excited and joking with friends? Or did she cross the line into humiliating her ex for validation? Let me know in the comments. And as always, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I will see you next video.